For generations, it was widely believed that the Brahmi script, one of humanity's most influential writing systems, emerged under the patronage of Emperor Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE. Ashoka's edicts, carved into stone pillars and rock faces across his vast empire, were considered the earliest evidence of written language in South Asia. But what if the story of writing in South Asia began long before Ashoka, in places few expected? This is the story of that hidden beginning. In the 19th century, scholars such as James Prinsep successfully deciphered the Brahmi script, unveiling the voices of the Mauryan Empire after centuries of silence. With no earlier inscriptions then known, it was widely assumed that Brahmi had been developed specifically for Ashoka's mission, to propagate Buddhist ideals and imperial decrees across the subcontinent. This view shaped not only the understanding of India's history, but also Sri Lanka's. It was long believed that writing reached the island with the arrival of Buddhism, introduced by Arahat Mahinda during the reign of King Devanampiya Tissa in the 3rd century BCE. According to this narrative, the Brahmi script and the concept of literacy were gifts carried by the sacred mission of the Dhamma. In recent decades, however, archaeological discoveries have profoundly altered these long-held beliefs. At sites such as Anuradhapura and Tissamaharama in Sri Lanka and Porunthal and Kodumanal in Tamil Nadu, excavations revealed inscriptions in Brahmi script, etched not on grand monuments but on humble pottery shards. Artifacts buried in ancient soil layers, dating from as early as the 6th century BCE in Sri Lanka and around the 5th century BCE in Tamil Nadu. In Sri Lanka, the foundation for these discoveries was laid by Dr. Siran Deraniyagala, whose pioneering work at Anuradhapura began in 1969 and continued with further excavations into the late 1980s. Through meticulous stratigraphic excavation and radiocarbon dating, he established the site's deep antiquity, identifying continuous urban occupation layers dating to between 600 and 500 BCE. Among these early levels, Deraniyagala uncovered pottery fragments bearing early Brahmi inscriptions, suggesting that literacy-related activities had begun centuries before the rise of the Mauryan Empire. But not everyone accepted Deraniyagala's findings at first. The idea that Brahmi's script could appear centuries before Ashoka in a Sri Lankan context was bold, and many historians remained skeptical. After publishing his findings, Dr. Deraniyagala sent a copy of his paper to Iravatham Mahadevan, India's most respected expert on ancient inscriptions. Mahadevan replied with a thoughtful letter. He wrote, "Dear Dr. Deraniyagala, I thank you very much for the off-print of your paper sent along with your letter of the 6th of August. You seem to be indeed making a revolution. The only problem is that supporting evidence is not yet forthcoming from India. When this happens, your revolution will be complete. Yours sincerely, I, Mahadevan." Mahadevan's letter was kind and encouraging, a rare gesture at a time when many scholars ignored or doubted the Sri Lankan evidence. But even he believed the discovery wouldn't be fully accepted unless similar evidence was found in India. It was a respectful acknowledgement, yet it showed how many historians still saw India as the main authority for South Asian history, expecting other regions like Sri Lanka to follow its lead. Sri Lanka had found something remarkable, but for the academic world, the revolution wasn't complete until India joined in. Building upon this groundwork, Professor Robin Coningham, alongside archaeologist Fr. Al Chin, led excavations at Anuradhapura between 1989 and 1994, uncovering early Brahmi inscriptions embedded within securely stratified occupation layers. Radiocarbon dating of these layers placed the inscriptions to the beginning of the 4th century BCE, making them among the earliest dated examples of Brahmi script in South Asia. Published in the Anuradhapura Sagahawata reports and related studies, these findings challenged the long-held belief that Brahmi originated in the north, suggesting instead that Sri Lanka may have played a pivotal role in its early development. This provided direct archaeological evidence that literacy existed on the island long before the time of Emperor Ashoka, or Arahat Mahinda. At Tissamaharama in southern Sri Lanka, excavations led by Hans Joachim Weischer between 1992 and 2010 uncovered pottery sherds bearing Brahmi inscriptions in early habitation layers. Stratigraphic evidence and radiocarbon dating place some of these layers, particularly stratum A1 to A3, as early as the 5th century BCE, strengthening the case for a widespread tradition of writing in Sri Lanka well before the time of Emperor Ashoka. The inscriptions were later studied by Indologist Harry Falk, adding valuable analysis to their script and archaeological context. In Tamil Nadu, parallel breakthroughs were achieved. At Porunthal, excavations led by Professor K. Rajan in 2009 uncovered pottery bearing early Tamil-Brahmi inscriptions, radiocarbon dated to approximately 490 BCE, providing some of the earliest direct evidence of written Tamil. However, some scholars, including Professor Harry Falk, have expressed doubts about the interpretation of certain Porunthal inscriptions, suggesting that some markings may be misread megalithic graffiti rather than Brahmi script. Excavations at Kodumanal uncovered Tamil-Brahmi inscriptions associated with thriving industrial activity, including bead-making, ironworking, and weaving. Radiocarbon dating places these layers between the 4th and 3rd centuries BCE, highlighting how literacy was already present among merchants, artisans, and traders in early South India. These discoveries have not only reshaped our understanding of South Asian history, but also sparked dialogue among leading scholars. Here, Professor K. Rajan and Dr. Siran Deraniyagala, pioneers on either side of the Palk Strait, exchange insights at a conference in Colombo. Let's now take a step back and see where these discoveries have emerged, not just when, but where. For a long time, it was believed that the Brahmi script originated during Emperor Ashoka's reign around 250 BCE, with inscriptions found at sites like Sanchi, Dhauli, and Girnar. But archaeology now tells a more layered story. Inscriptions and writing-related artifacts have surfaced across the landscapes of Sri Lanka and Tamil Nadu, dating back centuries earlier. From the ancient urban layers of Anuradhapura to the burial pottery of Porunthal, from the inscribed sherds of Tissamaharama to the workshops of Kodumanal, these places reveal the true unfolding of early literacy in South Asia, a story written not just in time, but in place. The evidence compels a rethinking of South Asia's ancient cultural flows. Rather than a one-way spread of writing from north to south, it now appears that the Brahmi script evolved organically in multiple regions, with a thriving literate culture flourishing in the south long before it appeared in the imperial records of the north. Merchants, artisans, and ordinary individuals, people whose names history seldom records, were already inscribing their marks upon the world, leaving behind traces of a literate and dynamic society. This new understanding does not diminish Ashoka's legacy. Rather, it clarifies his role, not as the inventor of Brahmi, but as its patron and amplifier. Under his reign, Brahmi was standardized and broadcast across a vast political and cultural landscape. Ashoka drew upon an already ancient tradition of writing, a tradition whose roots reach deep into the southern soils of Sri Lanka and Tamil Nadu. While the use of writing in Sri Lanka predates Arahat Mahinda's arrival, his sacred mission remains one of the most significant turning points in the island's history. Mahinda Thera brought not only the Dhamma, but a new spiritual vision that transformed the cultural, religious, and intellectual life of Sri Lanka. Under his influence, writing became deeply intertwined with Buddhism, serving to preserve the teachings, record royal donations, and lay the foundations of a Buddhist civilization that endures to this day. And the story of Brahmi may not end there. In recent years, a discovery at the Anuradhapura burial site in northwestern Sri Lanka revealed 3 Brahmi letters etched onto a pot used in a cremation. The associated human bone was radiocarbon dated to around 500 BCE, raising the possibility that this inscription could be the earliest known example of Brahmi script in South Asia. While Anuradhapura's early layers suggest writing-related activity as far back as 600 BCE, the Brahmi inscriptions found there are securely dated to around 375 BCE. If confirmed, the Anuradhapura find may predate even those, showing that the roots of writing in the region may run deeper than we ever imagined. Though still under scholarly review, this find reminds us that the history of writing in South Asia is far from complete, and that every excavation holds the potential to reshape what we thought we knew. The unfolding story of Brahmi is a testament to the ingenuity of South Asia's ancient civilizations. It reveals that the roots of writing were already strong in the South, shaping a literate society long before the proclamations of empire or the sacred journeys of missionaries. It was once believed that writing traveled from the north to the south, from imperial centers outward, yet archaeology now tells a richer story. A South that was literate, expressive, and deeply connected. A South that helped shape the future of communication across the subcontinent. And beyond kings and monks, it was the hands of everyday people, traders, pilgrims, artisans, who carried forward the spark of literacy. Their simple yet profound inscriptions became the ancestors of the scripts we know today. The spirit of expression, born from many voices across many lands, transcends time. It endures still, carved into stone, spoken through letters, and alive in the hearts of civilizations. The story of Brahmi is still unfolding, and so is ours. Thank you for watching. This is Hela Nomad.